going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Pazza podcast. It's been a long couple weeks since the last episode, dealing with some sickness and then just the move that had been mentioned before. As you can see, apologize for all of the boxes being out here. Getting close to being out of one state and into another. So was able to make time this weekend during the moving and packing to, of course, watch the big Inter match versus Roma. So I figured we'd hop on here and give some thoughts. It's going to be a quick episode, but just wanted to give some thoughts and semi-small analysis as to the big 1-0 win that Inter did over, you could say, title challengers at this point with how legitimate Roma has looked to start the season. But yeah, we'll dive into it. Before we get into it, though, I want to give a big apology to Henrik Mkhitaryan. What a performance he put on, especially in the second half for Inter in the midfield. You would never have guessed that this guy is one of the oldest players in the squad. Other than Acerbi, I think he is the oldest player in the squad. Just the energy and the all around. I mean, he deserved a goal for sure. Very unfortunate with his finishing. He could have killed the game, and I think that would have capped an absolute perfect performance for Mkhitaryan. But I've come out so many times over the last year and a half, talking about how we need to move on and from this guy, and he should not be the first name on the team sheet. And then he came out and put out a second half performance like that against Roma, his former club. And it wasn't just, the movement, the dribbling, all that stuff that we see all the time. It was the fight, the grinta, when Barella went out and Lautaro went out, the two players that give us that fighting spirit, that grinta, that momentum, the will, the drive, all of those things generally come from Barella and Lautaro when they're on the pitch. When they went off, got subbed out, it really, I mean, you could say Pio as well provided it, but I mean, Mkhitaryan, he's yelling at the referee Massa, he's getting stuck into challenges, he's running after loose balls. It was an all-around great performance for Mkhitaryan. And again, I'm man enough to admit, a big enough person to admit when I'm wrong. And if he performs like that week in and week out, he deserves to be one of the first names on the team sheet. So Mkhitaryan, again, I'm sorry. What a performance. So you can see Bella has made an appearance as well in this video. But yeah, we'll dive into this. We started with probably the strongest lineup we have available to us right now. Key injury being Thuram, but Boni has proven his worth the past few games, so he got the nod over Pio. Started with Sommer in goal. Wouldn't say it was controversial, but some people wanted to maybe see Pep Martinez. For me, not yet. When you have a big match like this match against Roma, you want to play players who have the experience in the big matches. And Jan Sommer, there might not be many players in our squad that has as much of experience as him. Stuck with him in between the sticks and net. Back line of Akanji, Acerbi, and Bastoni. De Vrij, I don't know what he has to do over the last few years to usurp Acerbi, but it seems like Acerbi is going to be that first choice center back for Kivu as well as he was under Inzaghi. It might have been, a selection thinking Dolbik or Ferguson was going to be the striker, not Dybala as a false nine. And Acerbi generally revels in those challenges against big, strong strikers. So maybe that was a decision from Kivu. Typical midfield five that we had with Dumfries, Barella, Chala, Mkhitaryan, and Di Marco. And then, like I mentioned up top, Lautaro was partnered with Janaj Boni. And we didn't have to wait long. 6th minute, beautiful through ball from Barella. Roma trying to play a high line, not a la Barcelona, but still high line. When I first saw the replay, I thought Indica was the one keeping him on. but it turns out it was Celik, the Turkish defender, keeping Jan Boni on. And it was a perfectly timed run, perfectly timed ball. You could say the finish maybe wasn't perfectly placed by Boni, and maybe Svilar should have done better, but without a doubt, it was a cool, calm, composed, really run all the way through from Boni. I don't think he even looked to square it to Lautaro, I believe, or maybe it was DiMarco that was coming through as a square option, and placed it confidently, coolly, and we're up 1-0. I've seen Roma fans online trying to say that it wasn't onside. The semi-automated offsides, I think, you hear some pundits and analysts say, there's no dispute about it. For me, I think, it depends on where they decide the touch of the ball came from. Like I said, when I first saw the replay, I thought it was Indica that kept Boni on, but it was Celik based off the semi-automated offsides. The angles that you see online from the Roma fans saying that he was off, I still can't 100% confidently say that he's offsides or onsides. It's one of those, if it's that close, usually you get a benefit of the doubt to the attacker. So I don't think there's any controversy there and whatnot. So brilliantly taken goal, 6 minute, and you got to give credit to Barella for that beautiful pass and the vision to find Boni there. And it looked like Inter were flying. I thought the match, honestly, my prediction was 3-1 Inter. And, there was a couple opportunities in that first half to put ourselves ahead, another goal. I thought we definitely were the better team in the first half and looked up to it. Roma was making some mistakes. There was a chance for Pellegrini in the first half for Roma. And it's, again, the thing that we've seen a lot this year, and in the past year under Inzaghi as well. We blame the defense for leaking in goals, but when you look at that chance for Pellegrini in the first half, and a lot of chances, you could say that Yildiz goal against Juve, that fourth goal, the winner for Juve, and Atta for Udinese, and the list goes on and on. A lot of it starts in the midfield, and the failure to close down these runs from midfielders on the opposition. And again, Pellegrini had 10 yards of space before Barella or Çalhanoğlu, or I believe it was ultimately Mkhitaryan that came in and stepped in and disrupted the shot at the last second. But that's the big concern. I think the back line has figured it out. And I think the midfield has got to figure out what they got to do to stop opposition midfielders from being able to dribble at them with ease and be able to do whatever they want, dictate whether it's a pass or a shot outside of the box. And that's the one thing we got to figure out, I think. But other than that, the first half, like I said, I think, Lautaro had some great hold-up play. I think, for the most part, DiMarco looked good. Bastoni looked good. Chala and Dumfries didn't really look up to it. I would say those two in the first half were the two maybe that for Inter you could say, needed to improve. But when halftime whistle came, I didn't think we needed to make any changes. And we didn't. And props to Kivu for not reacting, overreacting, or trying to do too much. He showed composure, almost like a veteran manager, by not doing something like that. Second half came, and again, immediately, almost similarly to the first half, we have an opportunity with Dumfries going through on goal. And it's the season, kind of like what we talked at the beginning of last season. You call him Dr. Denzel and Mr. Dumfries, Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. You never know which Dumfries you're going to get. Should have done better. Maybe could have squared it there for Lautaro. I don't know if that option was available, but it really should have been 2-0 there. And that chance spurned whatever really clicked for Roma, and that's when they grew into the game. And a couple minutes later, they had their first chance for a ball from Kone into Dybala, two players for Roma that have been linked with Inter over 3 or 4 years. I feel like Dybala, since he's been at Juve, has been linked with Inter every summer almost, it feels like. And then Kone this past summer. I would say if you watch the replay of that chance, I don't know if you can blame Akanji or Barella. I think it has to be Barella. But it was like they were both chasing each other instead of Kone. And then they just kind of stopped, allowing Kone to drive at the back line and play that through ball in for Dybala. It led to, after that Dybala shot and saved by Sommer, two more within a couple minutes, big chances for Roma, putting the pressure on Inter, which Sommer came up big. And again, like I said, big matches. A lot of people maybe were calling for Pep Martinez to come in. Big matches, you got to go with a player who's got the experience in the big matches. Sommer came up big, and that was really the period of time. I would say probably the 55th minute to about the 65th minute that Roma really made Inter suffer, and we saw the players dig deep and saw what they were made of. And Gasparini made some subs that really impacted the match, but Kivu made subs after that kind of nullified and also impacted the match for Inter. And I think the biggest one was bringing on Pio for Lautaro, and that takes balls to bring off your captain. Um, I think it was Pio for Lautaro, where I was putting on Pio in the match. That takes balls to put on a player 19 years old in a big match of this magnitude, 1-0, and ask him to ease the pressure off the back line. In my group message, I'd messaged at halftime, like, if anything, the only sub I want to see is maybe bring Pio on. If Lautaro can and hold the ball up for the first 10, 15 minutes or so and really put pressure on that back line of Mancini, who was getting frustrated, Ndika, who had gotten a yellow early in the second half, and Celik and their backline, Hermoso. Then bringing on Pio, it's going to be like a fresh body to really pressure these guys who are tired out, potentially on a yellow, and put the pressure. And that's what it happened. Pio came in. His hold-up play was incredible. I think other than Mkhitaryan and Boni, you could maybe put Pio in that conversation as being man of the match, even though he only played for 30 minutes. And between him and Mkhitaryan, those last 20 minutes, that is what really saved the day for Inter. And we came away from the Olimpico with all 3 points. Um, it was a great match, and I would say the only really spot that we looked or would need to look at again is that midfield, challenging and putting pressure on other teams' opposition midfielders from being able to, in the attacking third, drive at the defense. They need to shut that down way quicker than they are. But again, grande Pio, grande Mkhitaryan, grande Boni, and we came away with all 3 points, and that's all you can ask. Really, the biggest talking point of the weekend, though, seems to be coming from that Milan-Fiorentina match yesterday and the controversy of that late penalty that Milan won. Jimenez, the Mexican, drew a foul from Parisi, and if you watch, it wasn't called called on the field, went to VAR, and there's a lot of comparisons to the tackle that Kefren Turam for Juve made on Jan Boni at the dying seconds of that Inter-Juve match, and how everyone in the media and the Italian Football Federation came out saying that there was no foul there. Light contact to the face is not enough for a foul. And then we have this in the dying stages of a big match, which would have kept Inter at the top of the table. Same exact scenario, a foul given to Milan. Be interesting to see. I haven't seen much come out today of what FIGC is going to say and the referee association about why a penalty was called on there, especially since the referee had to go to VAR. We will see. I don't think they're as similar as people are making out to be. If you look, Parisi was behind Jimenez, and yes, Jimenez makes a mill of it, grabs his face, but there was a pull back. I think the one with Thuram and Boni, if anything, it's not the contact to the face that I think makes that a foul. I think it's if you look at the legs and the feet below, Thuram comes through the back of Boni's legs. Don't think they're similar situations, in my opinion, but I think both should have been called a foul, and that's the thing. It just needs to be consistent. If one's a foul, the other one is definitely a foul as well. But I'm not too concerned. I think Milan, I think Napoli, I think Juve are starting to show their true colors, and I think Inter is hitting a good patch of form regardless with these international breaks. And I think Inter, without a doubt, is showing that we are and should run away with the Serie A title this year. The only thing that'll make it difficult is the fact that Milan only plays one game a week, but they have their limitations. And I think if we had to say so right now based off form, I say we win the Scudetto by 8 points by the end of the season. But it's a long season, a lot can change. Another talking point, too, that I realized and looked at before coming on here is the fact that if you look at each game after these first three international breaks that Inter has to play, first international break, when we come back, first match is Juve away. Second match this past week after an international break, Roma away. And then we play Napoli next week. So two tough matches after an international break. And then the next international break, our game is Milan. So I don't know, scheduling wise, why that kind of irks me and makes me a little irritated. And we know, there's conspiracies out there all about, the anti-Inter conspiracy. Then you got the Marotta League conspiracy. Don't really want to pander to those two conspiracies, but it seems a little weird that those are our games coming off of an international break. And that's generally when we struggle, is coming off an international break. So something to keep in the back of the mind and look out for. But other than that, again, we're going to wrap this up and make it a quick one. It was a great performance from Inter this weekend. I think, other than about a 10-15 minute spell in that second half, I think Inter controlled the match. We played the game we wanted to. Kivu allowed Roma to attack us and not get too drawn out. A lot of times under Inzaghi, we would go against big teams and try and be the aggressor. And since Conte has built the foundations of this 3-5-2, Inter has always succeeded and done best when we sit back and hit on the counter. And it seems like that's what Kivu's kind of game plan was, especially, in the second half. And it worked. We didn't go on the attack as much. We sat back and it worked out. And I think, like I said, other than those 5 to 10 minutes, maybe 15 for Roma, Inter completely dominated and did not really feel pressure. Roma might have had more of the ball and stuff, but Sommer really didn't have to do too much. So we'll see. Like I said, I'm happy with the progress the team is making. Got a big match tomorrow, midweek, in the Champions League. Can start the campaign with 3 wins out of 3. And then we go on the road against Napoli next Saturday. So really a title could flip early on the script of the Serie A. Napoli could drop, quite a few points starting out, and Inter can kind of separate themselves from the rest of the pack. So be on the lookout for some new stuff. We'll officially be in the new place next week, and I'm going to want to start potentially investing in some improvements. So you might start seeing some new things in the upcoming weeks. But appreciate the support, guys. Please remember to like, subscribe, comment, all that stuff. And as always, Forza Inter.